Okay, so for on this project, I'm going to explain how I got my graphs. So the first graph I'm going to do is this one, which is my exponential graph. So my exponential graph, that's the one in the red. All right. So what I did is my day one was right here, and I also used this one. All right. So those are the 2 points that I'm using in my information. So here we go. Let's see. Here it is, my exponential growth one. So I used day 8, which was actually day 1 for me, which was 1, 4. And then I used day 25, which was 25, 9, 38. All right. So I used this formula, which is a sub n equals a sub 1 times r to the n minus 1 power. A sub 1, which is the number for day 1, which is 4. So I put in for a sub 1, 4. So I substituted that into my formula. I put a 4 in here. Then I used my other point, 25 and 938, and I substituted the 938 in for the a sub n, and I substitute the 25 in for the n. And then all I have to do is solve this equation. So I did the 25 minus 1, got 24. So I had 938 equals 4r to the 24th. I divide it by 4th power, or divide it by 4. Had 234.5 equals r to the 24th. And then I took the 24th root to get rid of the 24th power and got r equals this. So now that goes in for my r. So again, my original formula, a sub n, that has to stay there, equals 4, which is a sub 1. And then this is the answer I got here, which was my r, and then to the n minus 1 power. Now I can use this formula to find any of the days that I want. All right, so that was my exponential growth one. All right, now go to my quadratic one. All right, the first quadratic one I did is this one. I used these points. So I had to pick 3 points. So I did the 25, 986. I did this one, and then I did this one. So these were the 3 points that I used. All right, this point I used for the second one I did it the second time. All right, so the points that you see that are on the graph that I drew, those are the 3 that I used, and I'll show you them. There's 25, 986. All right, and the next one was 27, 1209, and the next one was 35, 672, which is that point. So I took those 3 points. Now, each one of these points I used in this equation, and I substituted the 986 for the y and the 25 in for the x. And that's what I got. So that's how I got this first equation. Did the same thing with the second one. All right, the 27 and 1209, substituted those in, and that's how I got my second equation. And then I did the same thing with the 35 and the 672. Again, I'm just using that original equation. I'm substituting this in for the x and this in for the y. All right, and then I just simplify it. So that's how I got my 3 equations that I got. Now, what I did is I solved the first equation, this one, for C, and it came up to this. Now what I did is I substituted this in for the C in the second equation. So I rewrote my second equation, but I left the C out, and I put this in for it. And then I simplified it, and I got this. All right? So that was my first equation I got. Then I did the same thing. I substituted what I got up here, all right, for C, into the third equation. So again, I took this equation, took out the C, and I substituted that in for it. And again, I just simplified this, and I got this equation. So now I have my 2 equations. I have this one, right, actually this one, and I have this one. So I have both of those equations. Now, I wanted to solve them by elimination, so what I did is I multiplied this one by a -5. When I multiplied it by a -5, I got this. Now I have this equation and this equation, and when I add these together, they cancel out. So I just add the other ones together, and I solve it, and I got that. Once I have that, I substituted A in to one of my equations. I just used this one because it was smaller numbers. So I substituted the a in there, and I solved it for b. And then I had a and b, and I took one of my equations. I just took the first one again. All right, took that equation and substituted in my a, substituted my b, and I solved it for c, and that's how I got the c. So now I have a, b, and c, so I wrote my equation. And here's my equation. There's a, there's b, and I put in c. And then I used this, I threw it in the graphing calculator to find out when the peak would be. I just looked at the table when I did that and pulled that up. So again, I just put that in. I actually think I have my second equation in here so I can show you the second equation. So if I turn it on, I go to y equals, and yeah, that's my second equation that I got that's in there. All right, so then I just hit second and table, and I looked for my maximum. All right, and if you look on this one, you can see the maximum was here 1365. All right, so that occurred at day 31. All right, so that I just used my graphing calculator for that. All right, so that's it. That's how I did my equations in the project. Again, both of them.